All right, so China is gearing up for a big one, the 75th anniversary of the Communist Party. A huge celebration, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. Their economy, well, it's not exactly throwing a party.
Right, and it's really interesting how they're trying to, give things a little boost. We've seen a lot of talk about these cash handouts that the government is giving out, especially to people who are struggling a bit.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit. We're talking billions of dollars here, right? And this isn't totally new for China, is it? I mean, they already have a pretty big system for like financial assistance.
Yeah, you're right. It's not completely out of the blue. To give you an idea, they've got something like $22 billion every single month set aside for different types of financial help. And get this, 40 million people are already receiving some type of regular support.
40 million people. Whoa, okay, so what makes these new handouts different? I mean, why now? Why this sudden urgency, especially with this massive anniversary thing happening?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And interestingly enough, one of China's leading economists, Huang Yuping, suggested this very thing back in May.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's a well-respected advisor to their central bank, so his words definitely carry some weight.
So hold on. So they're acting on advice that's been on the table for months. Makes you wonder if maybe the economic concerns run even deeper than they're letting on, especially with this anniversary right around the corner.
It's definitely a complex situation, and it's important to remember how, sensitive things can be in China. There was actually another economist who was, well, critical of Xi Jinping's economic policies, and he recently, well, he disappeared.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, and it wasn't even a public criticism or anything. This economist made a comment in a private WeChat message, and poof, gone.
Wow, a private message. That's intense.
hmm
Really highlights the pressure surrounding any kind of, well, any kind of criticism of their economic policies. So we've got these cash handouts, a missing economist, and this huge anniversary coming up. Feels like China's walking a pretty tight rope here, trying to control the narrative, but also trying to address some very real economic worries.
Absolutely. And it's not just handing out cash either. They're trying to be creative too. There are these coupon schemes popping up in Shanghai that are quite interesting.
Shanghai coupons. Okay, tell me more about those because that sounds like a whole other strategy. So these Shanghai coupons, they're not for like groceries or anything, right? It's not just basic needs. They're aiming for something else with this.
You got it. Think of it like, a laser-focused boost to certain parts of their economy. They want people spending, yeah, but not just anywhere. They're targeting the areas that really took a hit during the downturn.
Okay, I see. So which sectors are we talking about here?
Hospitality, entertainment, things people tend to cut back on when money's tight, those sorts of things.
Ah, so like restaurants, movies, concerts, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Those sectors are really important for China's economy, and not just because of the jobs, but for that sense of normalcy, that things are back to normal.
It makes sense if people are out and about spending money, it creates a certain energy, right? A feeling that things are moving again. Have they said how this whole coupon thing is actually working? Are people actually using them?
Well, it's still early days, so it's hard to say what the long-term impact will be, but the initial reports are pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, some restaurants are saying they've seen a surge in customers, especially during the week when things were usually quieter. And there have been reports of cinemas seeing a bump in ticket sales, too.
So some promising signs then.
Potentially, yeah. It's a pretty classic example of how China tries to manage their economy, wouldn't you say? This mix of direct intervention, like with the cash handouts, but also these more, well, targeted measures like these coupons, trying to encourage spending without looking like they're hitting the panic button.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes balancing act, for sure.
hmm
On the one hand, they've got this huge anniversary to celebrate. They want to project this image of strength and prosperity. But then on the other, you have these underlying economic worries that they're trying to, well, I guess, keep a lid on, which are probably even more amplified because of this big anniversary.
Exactly. And it's important to remember this isn't just an internal issue for China, right? If their economy struggles, well, the whole world feels it.
Oh, totally, because China's such a massive player in the global economy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the cash handouts, those economic concerns they're supposed to address, and this whole interesting coupon scheme in Shanghai. It really gives you a sense of how China is trying to deal with these challenges.
Absolutely. And it really highlights that balancing act they're trying to maintain between, well, staying in control and adapting to a changing economic landscape.
Mhm.
Remember that economist we mentioned earlier, the one who suggested those cash handouts back in May.
Yeah, Huang Yuping. Right.
Yeah, well, the fact that they're implementing his suggestion now, whether they publicly acknowledge him or not, suggests they are, at least on some level, willing to listen to different points of view, even if it's not always obvious.
That's a really good point. It shows that even within a system that appears, at least from the outside, to be very rigid, there's still some room for flexibility and adaptation.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild when you think about it, this whole balancing act. They're putting on this big show of control for the anniversary and everything, but at the same time, they're also having to, actually deal with these real economic problems behind the scenes.
Right. It's a delicate dance for sure. And that leads to the big question, doesn't it? Will it be enough?
Exactly, yeah.
Will these handouts, these coupons, will they actually be enough to really turn things around for China's economy?
Or is it just a Band-Aid?
Yeah,
A temporary fix to a problem that could be a lot bigger than they're letting on.
exactly. And it's something we all need to keep an eye on because China's economy, well, it affects everyone, not just people living in China.
That's so true. Their economy sneezes, the world catches a cold, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up, don't you? This whole situation, the cash handouts, the Shanghai coupons, it's been really interesting to learn about. It gives you a real glimpse into how China operates on the world stage, celebrating this big anniversary, projecting that image of strength. But behind the scenes, they're dealing with the same economic uncertainties as everyone else.
For sure. And the way they handle these challenges, well, it's going to have ripple effects that we'll all feel in some way.
It definitely gives you something to think about. All right, everyone, that's our deep dive into China's economic landscape. It's complicated, it's high stakes, and honestly, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen next. But as always, it's going to be fascinating to watch it all unfold.